Hey folks, today is Friday, August 31st, 2018. As usual, it's me, Jake Baldino, and buckle up, gamers. It's time to talk about some gaming news. Imagine I talk like that. That's... God. Alright, what do we got this week? The first bit of news is actually a very surprising little bombshell from Battlefield 5. Something I didn't expect, but they're delaying the game. Usually you don't see delays this late in the game, so to speak, unless it's smaller titles, but for something as big as Battlefield, sometimes it's hard to make those changes. So much money, advertising, and all that stuff is put in place that a delay this last minute is impossible. But they've done it. Battlefield 5, as you probably remember, was supposed to drop October 19th, right around the time of Black Ops 4 and Red Dead Redemption 2, two other big heavy-hitting game titles, and it was already slated by analysts, as we spoke about last week, to essentially be the game that falls the hardest this fall season. So I think maybe they have taken that to heart, because the game is now dropping November 20th, 2018. Just a month delay, but I think a smart move in the sense that it's moving it a little bit away from the crowded October release schedule. Now, of course, it is just a month and it is still the fall season, and some people are only going to buy one first-person shooter, so I still think it's going to be an uphill battle for a game like Battlefield 5, especially considering a lot of people have just been not happy with some aspects of the game, but also, like I said, just the fact that analysts are predicting it won't do so well, coupled with the fact that the game has low pre-orders. I'm still rooting for it because I like the Battlefield games, not love, but we're just gonna have to wait and see how this goes. But I do think it's fascinating and it's worth pointing out the fact that EA was able to just move mountains and push the release date a month just like that. Considering it is such a big company and such a big game, I wonder if we'll see more stuff like this in the future. But in some exciting entertainment news, it actually looks like we might be getting a Diablo Netflix series, which doesn't sound like a bad thing considering the Castlevania animated series, season 1 dropped last year, was really awesome. So I'm into what they're doing here. Netflix is also, of course, working on a Witcher television series, but the latest rumors suggest that Blizzard is working with Netflix to come up with a Diablo series. That's all we really know as of right now, other than that the writer. There is apparently a writer attached. It's the guy most notably behind the upcoming Hellboy movie in 2019, starring David Harbour. Like I said, it's just a rumor. That's all we have right now, so don't get too excited, but it's still pretty interesting. Especially considering with video game movies, which we do talk about sometimes here on the show, the Netflix show way seems to be a little bit better. Some properties seem to fare a little bit better that way, but I think the biggest judging point will, of course, be The Witcher show. Now moving on to some Spider-Man PS4 news, we finally know roughly how long the game is. One of Insomniac's guys went on Twitter responding to a fan stating that the game on average, for their playtesters, takes about 20 hours for all the main stuff. Not really accounting for the side quests and all the open world exploration around that. Now, really, that is divisive. There are some people out there that think that's a complete disappointment, and I'm pretty good with 20 hours. Are you?
Oh, yeah.
The way I look at it, if it's 20 solid hours of really good story and scripted sequences and stuff like that, and then the hours I can explore in the open world after that, that to me is good. I also read someone else saying that, you know, the Arkham games took less than that, and yet you still spent so much time with that world. The way I look at Spider-Man, if the story is really enjoyable, I will see myself replaying that again. Also, it's a game you're never going to want to fast travel in. You're going to want to swing from place to place, which will probably extend it. Really, the video game length thing for single-player adventures is a whole other video. We can have a discussion about that. But the way I look at it, if the time spent is really, really good with single-player games, I take what I can get. The other bit of Spider-Man news, a little bit of a controversy, very small. Some people concerned about a possible graphical downgrade. At this point, I feel like we see this with every single game. A fan on Twitter did point out that lighting and puddles in the game look different than they did when they were showed off at E3. Some people out there have been really shitty about this, and I just don't like that, and I don't want to call too much attention to this, because the way I feel, judge it when the game comes out. You really cannot tell from YouTube compression or screenshots. Interestingly enough, I guess respect to Insomniac, they didn't necessarily hide from the question. They came out and defended their game. I do think that's good, but sometimes I think by acknowledging these things, you just make things worse, because then people can just go, well, what about this? And why aren't you saying this? And of course, I'm biased because it is my most anticipated game of the year, so full transparency there. But for me, really, honestly, I'll judge it when the game comes out. How do you guys feel about this, though? Do you think that it looks way too different, or do you think what Insomniac's developers who actually make the games have logical, reasonable explanations. I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. If you want to see it for yourself, it's linked in the description below. But speaking of things that are linked in the description below, we do, of course, have the Cyberpunk 2077 full gameplay video. This is 48 minutes of straight up gameplay. We pointed this out on the live show. This is basically what we got to see at E3, and it looks really awesome. I'm happy that the public is finally able to see it because it is awesome, so I definitely want to know what you're thinking about that. But of course, I also linked in the description a little reading material. You know, we all talk about games so much, we should be well read on them. This is from gamesindustry.biz, and this is a pretty interesting interview and some insight into how and why From Software and Activision came together to put out Sekiro Shadows Die Twice. Considering From Software isn't exactly the name you think would associate with Activision immediately, it's pretty interesting to see how this all panned out and what their thought process was behind all this. We also have the Destiny 2 Forsaken trailer, which is a pretty cool, exciting little trailer. It also shows the Guardian talking, and that's a thing, right? Hey, the pizza's here! And it's important I knew something I thought that was pretty interesting. In the newest update, Epic is allowing keyboard and mouse players on PS4, people who plug in keyboard and mouse to a PS4, when they play that way, the game will recognize it and group them in PC player lobbies, which I think is a good idea because it's automatically super unfair if you're playing with a keyboard and mouse against PS4 players. Just brutal. I think it's a smart move by Epic, and I just, hats off to them. That's cool. I also like having the freedom of choice to play with a keyboard and mouse on PS4, if that's your jam. That's a little complicated, but hey, you do you. And in a little catch-up loot box news, things have been heating up a lot recently, at least overseas in Europe, about the loot box stuff. Belgium and the Netherlands, things have been ramping up, but most notably, the biggest update that I thought was pretty interesting is PEGI, the rating system for a lot of Europe. You know, if you watch a European trailer and it goes PEGI 18, they have announced that they are adding warnings on video game boxes about in-game purchases. So now a game will have a rating, but it will also have a little logo denoting that the game does have in-game purchases, warning both parents and players about it. Ultimately, I think it is small. It seems like a small thing, but I think it does go a long way in terms of transparency. I think for people like us, if you're watching this video, you always pay attention to that stuff so you know whether or not a game is going to have it. But think about the general public, more casual players out there who are just picking a game up off of a shelf. They might be a little more blindsided by this stuff. So now that they can more easily know about this type of stuff, whether or not they want to spend more money in the game, I think is a good thing overall.
End up being like completely ubiquitous because it's gonna be on literally every fucking box.
That's a good point. It's probably going to be on every game. But that's really all we got going on this week. We wanted to keep it a bit short. If you are at PAX West, we hope you have a great time. We can't make it this year, but we hope you guys have a blast over at that awesome Seattle gaming convention. Other than that, we got to do that console giveaway we do every single week. You know how it goes by now. There's a link in the description. You click it to sign up. You enter once, then you're entered for good. And then every single week, we choose one person to win a free console of their choice. And this week's winner is going to be this person right here. Congratulations. Be sure to keep an eye on your inbox, your spam box, stuff like that, because Tom is going to be reaching out to you to find out how he can send you your stuff. But other than that, I just want to know how you guys feel about video game stuff this week. The Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay. Did it blow your mind like you were hoping? Are you still not convinced of the first-person shooting aspect? Personally, I am, as soon as I saw it. How do you feel about the world? Do you think the graphics look very current-gen or next-gen? When do you think this game is even going to come out? And do you think Battlefield bumping up its release date is a smart move for the game, or do you think it's a little bit too little too late? And Spiderman, 20 hours. Are you satisfied with that? Have you been keeping up with the other information they've been pushing about expansion, single-player stuff after the game releases? I definitely want to know how you guys feel about Spider-Man and everything we talked about down in the comments. I'll be down there talking to you guys as much as possible, but of course, if you got anything else for me, please be sure to yell at me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Jake Baldino. Or if you want to hang out with a really awesome community, discord.gg/gameranx. We're going to go back to making videos, but as always, thank you guys so much for coming around and watching us talk about video game news every Friday. And our live show, which is live every Tuesday, 4 p.m. Eastern. Be sure to come around for that, because that's a good time. I don't know why I scratched my nose as I said it. People say that if you scratch your nose while you're talking, you're technically lying, but I wasn't lying. Clicking the like button does help us out, but if you are new, you should subscribe because we put out stuff every single day. Clicking that notification bell definitely helps. But as always, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Pizza's on us, literally.
No, I said bring it over here, like for the camera. You missed the whole goof. You ruined it. Anyway, enjoy this.